What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today. Today we are doing a Q&A kind of video. It's been a while since I've done these types of videos that are separate from just regular deck profiles, combo plays, tournament reports. I figured it would be a good stopping point since we just hit 600 subscribers and actually just get like a Q&A video out there. And honestly, I got a lot of good questions. And so today I'm really excited just to have some time and answer about anything related to Vanguard, personal life, and even in the community moving forward, like with the whole Vanguard metagame and all that kind of stuff. So let's just start diving into some of these questions. So our first question is, if you could have any unit from Granblue join the Navy, or have any unit from aquaforce become a pirate, who would you pick, and what would they do actually? And so this is coming from Atlas Novak from Nexus the Night, also from Nexus the Corpse too. So thanks, amigo, for shooting out the question. So if I were to pick a unit from Granblue that joined the aquaforce Navy, I think it would have to be Columbar from B series. Like seriously, phenomenal unit. First, the art is really fantastic. I got SPs, but the skill honestly is very important for Aquaforce. So for a good example, Aquaforce for a long time has struggled with two things. One is like advantage, just generating advantage from nothing. We got that mitigated a little bit with the Gembolt Stride, so that's a blessing. I'm not complaining about that. The other component, though, was the ability to search for key pieces in order to do our turns effectively. Aquaforce has to do battle formations, and we have to optimize because we are limited on resources, and we're not just a deck that can just build advantage as easily compared to other decks. So a card like Columbar, where you can literally fetch any card from deck and actually call it from the drop zone at that point, opens up a lot of consistency, a lot of awesome reusability that sometimes Aquaforce needed too, because once you're running out of, let's say, running out of Tidal Assaults or something like from back in the day or even now, just reviving one could mean the difference of a game. And honestly, just having Columbar like that would be really cool, honestly. At that point, vice versa, if a unit from Aquaforce would become a pirate, who would it be? This one's a little tough. There's two things that I like to see that could be transitioned into Granblue. A Veleos type skill from either the Stride or the Grade 3, where you lock your opponent at 11k. And the second thing would be like recyclability in the terms of like Nikki, for example, that got the retrain. We're able to bottom deck any other card to be basically recycle our uses for cards that we can later on grab at that point. So with Leos, it's like the 11k lock would be very handy for units like back in the day with Nairo's Jira, where you're hitting those 11k pokes at that point. And so at that point, you are really guaranteeing one card per attack at that point, and so you have no fear of a damage check trigger at that point. So it really opens up that possibility again of GRA usage and hitting those absurd number of attacks where we can get to 10 to 13 attacks if you really played it out smart. So that's something I would like to see. And also, but really the recyclability, we have something with Negerbone V where it can bottom deck itself and start creating a stack too. But if we can recycle different units and different key cards back to the deck, that would be super helpful, especially if you can just call it as a grade 1 and maybe rest it to be able to recycle something and then may soul charge 1 because we want to make sure our deck count stays at a certain number or increases, or if you want to break even and you just run a recycle and also supply some resources because we do use salt, for example, for Ripple Banshee. And so those are two things from each of those clans that I like to see to help each other out. So thanks, Atlas. Next question. This one's from Edward O'Brien from Facebook, from the Granblue Fantasy group. He said, have you enjoyed Granblue more in the V era or in the G era? And honestly, that's more of like a storyline kind of answer. And so I'll start with the G era. For honestly, when I started Granblue personally, was when they finally got G era support and proper 7Cs and also Night Rose got support to be actual playable decks and be in the competitive game. Honestly, I was in the competitive scene already with Blue Wave in Aquaforce, and so I just wanted another competitive deck that actually can deal well with Kagero, right? Denial Griffin was the thing, and so Granblue really led into that. I had fun with both decks, especially with 7Cs at first being the proper, not the grade 1 rush variant, and then eventually evolving into Night Rose, and where Night Rose had that feeling of actually you can just pick up the deck and learn how to play Granblue, right? But Night Rose had to introduce another in-depth level of actually knowing how to play the deck really well. There was a lot of decision tree making during your stride phase, your main phase, and especially your battle phase, and then even in your opponent's battle phase where you can do the pseudo denial griffin play. It was just a really good time for people that love that kind of extra goodness in a deck that provided, and honestly, it was really good at the metagame too. You know, a big contender was Time Leap, for example, in Luard. And with Time Leap, they had the hetero round where you had to like really think ahead, not only during your own plays and also react with your G Guardian, you have to deal with their G Guardian and also their plays with next stage and so on. It was just, it was a lot of goodness. I don't know how to say it, but it was just very a good time to be really stimulating, and it wasn't just the typical brain dead games that you had, luck sack or anything like that. It was just actual smart playing, and it really mattered the pilot and who you are and who you face that really determined the game. So that was really exciting time. And as we went into Viera, honestly, it was kind of boring. For example, Baskirk and Kakaitis, they were great cards. They brought resources, and especially at the when VR started, Granblue was in a better spot than most clans where they couldn't really generate advantage. Granblue can easily generate advantage and still do its power columns, and not only that, be a protect deck. And for a while, protect decks were honestly the king of the metagame, if you really think about it. But it was just kind of boring after a while. And you brought it into not Jira, but in Premium, and that actually had some cool. Especially once we got the Obadiah right, that really changed things. So it started to go up my excitement level, my enjoyfulness, and then honestly, now that we got both Bad Bounty and the Night Rose retrain, this is it just made things a lot more interesting, not only for the standard metagame, but also for the premium game. And so with standard, you're able to do 4 or 5 attacks. You actually have some decision making that you can do. Not as much as Giera Night Rose, but we have access to premium as well, so that card pool is now available, and it just made Granblue another more in-depth to plays and combos, and it was really good. So that's a very good question. I got some 2 funny questions. One is from Jaime Molina. He's also a good friend of mine in real life. He also mentioned this on the Granblue Facebook group, and also one from Aiden Scott, who also was in the Granblue Facebook group. So Jaime's question was, why are SP Greed Shades almost $100? Great question. Asking the real questions, my man, for real. Honestly, if you look it up now, it's really hard to get Greed Shade. I think because of Granblue getting support, or knowing even a couple months ago that Granblue was going to get even more support, Greed Shade is just a staple, honestly. I can't see Greed Shade going anyway completely anytime soon. Honestly, especially in Premium, because Greed Shade allows you to reuse like heal triggers or get your pieces, maybe for like Ultimate Strike Fighter, and just improving the quality of your hand. And honestly, Premium, it becomes very important for that. It almost reminds me with Spike Brothers with the GBA, where some people still play Jellybean, the one that can search the heal so you can actually G-Guard and get to GB8 as fast as possible. I see Greed Shade almost like that, and not only that, it just helping with the consistency of the deck. Milling a couple cards too, just to help with the drop zone. So it's a very good card. that honestly, you know, if you invested into an SP Greed Shade a year ago, your investment's going to be well worth for real. The second one was actually from Aiden, and he said, why did it reprint Romario over Ripple Banshee? And another great question. Honestly, I don't know. I saw Romario being one of the first grade 1 units that would just leave the deck. For real. Like any generic Granblue deck we saw Romario, and people were literally already trying to get him out of the deck. I'm not sure why Bushi decided to reprint that over Ripple Banshee. Ripple Banshee, honestly, on its own, before the whole Night Rose integration, or not integration, interactions, I saw Ripple still being a low count kind of unit, but then with playing standard and even some premium, you wanted to see Ripple at 3 or 4 copies, honestly. So they should have reprinted Ripple, and I agree with you too as well. Also from the Facebook Granblue Fantasy group, this one's from Evan Alberto. Everybody knows Evan, and he also writes articles for the blog as well, so I appreciate you, brother. Another good question too. If you can redo, actually he has 2 questions now that I think about it. If you can redo a card in terms of Skosh, what would it be? Honestly, for both Aquaforce and Granblue, it would be both Night Rose and Lambros, the retrains. Lambros, first off, being restricted to a column was the weakest form of the Lambros clones that we've seen in V-era retrains. So just being able to flexible restand 2 units in general, that's what I would change, honestly. And that could open up the more possibilities of different deck builds that we're on so restricted and so reliant on Nerissa, on Koro. So being that big beefy column, that honestly it could open up different plays at that point too. And then Night Rose, very similar. Obviously, if you Counter Blast one to call a column, that's great. But if we can just call the units anywhere, then we can just use one Counter Blast to promote 2 more attacks versus just one Counter Blast to promote an additional attack, and then you have to call the Column Bard or the Captain Nightmare behind the Skull Dragon of the called unit to actually spend another counterblast to get an extra attack. And so maybe Bushi was just a little hesitant on that because it might have been too broken, especially in standard. I get that, you know. For premium wise, I wish it was more like counterblast, call 2 reguards anywhere you want them, and go ham. That's what I would change, honestly. And your second question is, what is one of the biggest misplays that you regret? And it could be from a regional. I have I have two of them. They happen in the same regional event. It was a 2-day event. Honestly, it was the one that I got second place overall here with Night Rose back in the Jira days. And what had happened, 2 instances. First one, I think it was like the 7th or 8th or 9th round. No, it was the last round of the first day. So I think it was round 6 or round 5, however that panned out. I was actually facing Senpai's friend, Dan. He was playing Messiah and I was playing Night Rose. What had happened was I was doing the finishing turn with Negro Sanger, and I was utilizing my only rearguard circle that was open, or I was making sure that I just had rearguard circles to work with. And Negro Sanger honestly was a strat that could help reuse a circle to get an additional attack at that point. And so that's what I did. I did my plays, and I thought that I had enough counterblast to further extend. And for whatever reason, it didn't have it. And I was like, what happened? I thought I calculated this right. And then I ended my turn via mediocrity, basically. And honestly, that was supposed to be my finishing game. And after that, I just lost the game. And as I moved my cards a little bit, I realized that I did have a face-up counterblast. And I was like, what? It was hiding under another one that was face down. I was like, what the heck? You know, it's a bummer. And it was, the first day was a 1 game, 1 round thing. So if you lost 1 game, that was it. So it cost me the game. But day 2, they made it into 3 games per round. And the second misplay that I had was against a Sanctuary Guard player, where I almost was doing the finishing blow, especially on a GBA turn with Galleon. I essentially didn't have enough. I didn't have another Negarrook in the drop zone. So Negarrook in my battle sequence was on the field, and I attacked with Negarrook. Then my other column was Negarbone and some other unit. I can't remember what it was. But after that, you know, Negarbone counterblast 1, call Negro Lazy, and I call Negro Lazy on the opposite side. So Negarrook was still on the field. And I already paid the counterblast and soul blast and started looking into my drop zone to call some other unit, grade 2 or lower. I did not have the extra Negarrook, and so it didn't allow me to fully extend as much as I wanted to. I should have actually placed it onto the Negarrook, thus Negarrook being allowed to be picked because it's in the drop zone at that point, which would have sealed the deal. But because of that, I lost game 2, and I had to make it up in game 3. But thank God I was able to do it at that point. So those were the 2 biggest misplays. Would I change it? I don't know. Honestly, they didn't really matter because I got into top 8, and then top 8 was a whole different story, and I made it second. So I'm proud of that at that point still. This one's from Winning Image, who is also doing Cardfight Con in the future, near soon in December time. So be on the lookout for that. Very excited for that too, virtual con. His question is tips for balancing Vanguard in life, and honestly, I'll throw in also Vanguard tubing as well. So I think what people think of like time management, we all have 24 hours in a day. We only have 7 days in a week. We have 365 days in a year. So I think what it really comes down is to something called priorities management. And I encourage people to make a list of the things that are really important in your life on a daily, weekly, monthly basis at that point. For example, I have like about 7 areas that I focus. I have spirituality, marriage, health, work, business, personal fun, and then of course I think there was something else I can't remember at the moment. Oh, friends and family. Friends and family, of course. And those are the areas that I honestly tend to focus. And some of those tend to take some daily effort. Some of those take weekly effort, and some of those take monthly effort. And so you really got to find where your time is allocated, and that way you can actually be productive in what you're trying to accomplish and maintain as well in your life too, because relationships do take work, especially marriage. I'm always striving to be a better husband, a better father soon in the future. Not real soon, but later on in the future. So just having that mindset and everything, and honestly just finding pockets of time where I can play Vanguard CFA, especially with the pandemic. You're forced to play online. It was really hard to even go to locals. Some places didn't open up, and some places are still closed today. Another thing is just proxying and maybe playing with your, against yourself, right? I do that still today. Honestly, it was one of the best ways for me, especially when I was playing competitive a lot. Get a proxy deck or a real life deck, like let's say Chaos against Aquaforce. How can I win the Chaos matchup with Aquaforce? And really start seeing those, analyzing the whole matchup as I'm playing and realizing, putting myself in a back corner on top of that. So if a 6 heal damage for chaos happened, it really made me think like, how can I guarantee, not something like that, but it made me really think and got really good at matchups too. That at that point I understand the drive and seat of that deck too as well, and so that's very important too. When it comes to also, like, let's say Vanguard YouTubing, what I do, I try to do things in 30 minutes or less. I think what happens with us, if we try to do something for an hour or more, we tend to stretch it out. And this could be something like going to work or something. You stretch it out, and honestly, if you can put yourself for 30 minutes, like, what can I accomplish in these 30 minutes? And that's all I'm going to focus on. It can be actually creating an outline for your video. It can be actually maybe play testing with a deck. It could be deck building. For me, it might be like actually recording the video, and then after that, some editing. Key things in that. And then for Vanguard tubing, on top of that, what I've been getting good at is my process. Like, if I record like these videos or a deck profile video or a real life game video, they all take different editing effort, and it's just finding what takes longer and what takes quicker, and if there's any way to optimize that on the recording stage. A good example is my deck profiles. I tend to have a structure now that honestly, once the video is done, I can go into my video editing and actually know where exactly I need to trim off and make it all transition nice and look nice and just upload it to YouTube. And it's a lot more efficient. So I don't have to spend time like looking at my video and actually, oh, I need to do that, I need to cut that out and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that's helpful. Honestly, it's just finding the time that you want to spend. I recommend maybe setting like a day or two to play Vanguard with some friends. You got to realize how much effort you can put into it. It might be weekly, it might be bi-weekly, it might be monthly, honestly. It just depends where you're at in life. So I hope that helps out in that regard too. So hope that helps. This one's from Ames4. He's actually from Axis Vanguard as well, and he also has his YouTube channel. He said, what do you recommend to new players, especially if they want to start competitively? Honestly, the first thing that I like to emphasize, especially with new players, just start learning the deck that you can get comfortable with. It's your first deck in the game. Just learn how to play it well at that point. Start there, you build confidence in yourself, you start building confidence in the deck. I made an article too about building self-confidence, and then I also made an article about like getting top 8 and what it takes, and some things I break down in in-depth level. So they're both on Force of the Ocean, so if you could check those out and you want to know more in depth, check those out. And then the other things that I want to say is set a goal. You know, whether it be maybe a better winning record at locals. To be honest, the first time I played Yu-Gi-Oh! At a regional, not a regional, at a locals, like the very first time, I just wanted to make sure I can break even or have more wins than losses. That's where I started. My first time I was 2 wins and 2 losses, so I was like, okay, that was good, you know? And then as I got more confident, I was like, all right, let's see if I can get into top 4 at my locals. Okay, can I get second? Can I get first? In a regional, can I make it to top 32? Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Events were really huge. For Vanguard, it was like maybe get top 16, top 8, and then it's like, okay, can I get to top 8 during these regional events? What do I need to focus? And just having those goals in mind, that honestly, it's going to take some effort, it's going to take some time. That you just got to have the mindset, which is another tip, is having the mindset that every game that you play, you're going to learn something from it. And just so ask yourself the question, how can I improve, right? And so from each game, you learn more about your deck, and you learn more about the matchup, and you learn more about some of the things that you've never seen before up until that point, or maybe something to be reminded of, right? It could be effective guarding, it could be counterblast denying, for example, or maybe certain matchups it just doesn't matter how aggressively you go in early or late, and little things like that, to be honest. It's just really have a learning mindset. And then it's going to take time, like I said. Consistency over intensity. You can have those days where you can get a lot of practice in, but honestly, being consistent with your games, even if it's just by yourself or a CFA or in real life, it helps out overall. So you're building that muscle memory a lot more easier. Same thing with working out. It's never about intensity. If you work out for 8 hours in a month, are you going to get in shape? No. It's really 2 to 3 times a week. Even if you walked, you get better results at that point, right? So that's the mindset. And then lastly, I would recommend also seek out better players or equal players at your level too. So that way you can actually learn from them. Look for players that are open-minded and willing to share and willing to help out. There's a lot of people that don't realize that if you can seek better players, it'll help you grow quicker. Especially if you're away from negative people, which can be belittling you. They can be, you know, I hate this, like when people say, oh, you're a scrub or something like that, and people say jokingly, But it's actually hurting your subconscious. And so I recommend staying away from those people or keeping your distance in a way, and really focus on the people like, hey, you did a really good job. I know you didn't win that game, but I've seen you actually improving your gameplay. You are learning. You actually Counterblast denied that matchup, which you really needed to. You know, that's why you live longer instead of just being run over by a truck, kind of thing. And honestly, when you're good, when you're around good people, it grows the community as a whole at that point. And so sometimes people, especially some competitive players, may be elitists or closed-minded, however you want to call it. It's just, I don't know, is that they're not willing to share what they've learned and help other people as easily. And maybe it might be a fear for them that, oh, if I help them out, this might be my competition in the future. And yeah, that's true. But honestly, we're trying to grow as a community. We want the competitiveness to rise. It only forces us to rise up as better players too. And with that, you have impact if you're willing to help others and teach others too. On top of that, if it's just you and you harbor all the secrets, it doesn't do you any good or the community as well. And so just keep me mindful of that. So seek out some good players, some good people, and honestly, you'll progress, and in no time you'll get some results. You know, it takes time. Honestly, I didn't get to top 32 in Yu-Gi-Oh, and then eventually to top 16, top 8 in Vanguard until like maybe like 3 years into actually playing the game. So be patient with yourself. Last question. How did you get into creating content for Vanguard? This is from Bao from the Discord. He's also the one that wrote the Seven Seas deck spotlight a couple months ago. Very good question. I'll try to do a TLDR. But honestly, it started out with me playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And so when I found out about actually deck profiles being a thing on YouTube, that really excited me. And so whenever I saw deck profiles in Yu-Gi-Oh!, a lot of people, especially that build specific decks, they actually did a really good job on explaining some of the card choices they made and some of the plays that they would actually do as go-to plays. And that was just very helpful, and honestly it gave me ideas to try out at locals too. So whenever I went to the tournament to play, it honestly allowed me to actually try out the deck or even some of the plays. And it was really a learning experience. And what I noticed with Vanguard, especially once I started diving into the competitive round, I was looking for deck lists. I was looking for videos for mindset. Um, I mean, it's not that hard to find. Like, let's say, let's go back in time, back to GVT02 days, back where these Lambros and Favas came out. It was a lot of commonality between the deck lists. It's like, oh, for title doesn't need no explanation. And it's just like, sometimes you wanted the little extra nugget that you wanted, at least from that video, because a lot of the videos were pretty much the same thing. In fact, I think I saw one video that referenced another one. Oh, the only reason I played 3 or 4 of this card is because the other guy did it in this other video. I'm like, that's not really helpful. So I saw a lack of like in-depth mindset, combos, and honestly, if I'm already spending the time to look up on a deck, I already know the general knowledge of it, and I just wanted the extra oomph to actually like learn from it or something. And that's where I felt like honestly there was a need for that. And it really wasn't until I actually started like actually topping in Vanguard that I felt that I convinced myself, and you don't have to do this, but I convinced myself enough to actually sit myself down and actually record myself and explain my deck choices. And it was really awkward. I've explained that to before in different videos. And you know, I've gotten better over time as well. I started becoming more of myself, my authentic self. And that's part of the reason why it started out there. But the part of, I guess, the more inner deepness or desire, that's like, why do you do a YouTube channel? Why are you doing a blog? And it was honestly content that I just wanted to see from other people provide. If I woke up in the morning for a YouTube channel or for a blog that gets an update or something or a new video, I would be excited just to get to see what they do in a deck or a certain like article that actually went in depth in certain things that honestly I was excited about. So I was excited about Granblue, and I was excited about aquaforce, and of course I'm excited about different clans too and learning from that too. But it was just like, if I can provide that because I want to see it, then I'll just keep doing it. These are the kinds of videos that I do on my channel that I would see personally, and that's why I love actually creating the content. Is, you know, when you start creating content just for the sake of YouTube or the sake of creating content and becoming a YouTuber, the longevity of you doing it without getting burnt out and becoming a chore is honestly what you like to do with your content. Different Fight did a really good video too on this and on burnout, and also some of those other videos that he's done in the past, like YouTube advice and everything. That's really helpful stuff that lets us not only put the time and effort into it. Like, I don't get paid to do this. I'll be free upfront about this. I do this on my free time because I enjoy doing it. You know, so that's why I do it. And honestly, when I found out when people started actually find this very helpful, whether it be a deck list or even a combo play or some key things that I pointed out or experiences like in tournament reports or even some knowledge that a lot of people like in articles too. Sometimes reading is better than just viewing and listening to video. It's really heartfelt at that point. You start feeling like you're starting influencing people and having an impact in a positive way at that point. And so that really touches me at that point. It sounds corny, I'll be upfront with that, but it's really the only reason why I keep doing it is because it's fun, it's exciting, it's Vanguard, and I get to help people too as well. With just having either casual tournaments, casual play, or even regular competitive regional events at that point. So if I can help out anybody with that, then great at that point. So yeah. Thanks for watching, amigos. I appreciate you guys for asking all those questions too, whether it be on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and all those platforms that I usually tend to be on, sharing content. So again, I appreciate you. Right now we're at 600 subscribers, so I appreciate you guys that also participated in the giveaway. I announced the winner. He's actually getting his playmat soon too, so I'm blessed to be able to do that for other people too. So that's really exciting. And honestly, I want to do another giveaway too soon once we hit those 1,000 subscribers, and I'm hoping December is going to be a really good time for everybody, and I'm excited for CardFightCon, for example. When an image just announced that, and there's going to be a huge virtual event that could be easily plugged in by anybody, like a 2-day event too. That's something that honestly, with the pandemic, like we haven't been able to go out as easily, or even to see people and friends that we've known over the years in regionals. But being able to just to plug it into a virtual con, I think is right timing. And so I definitely recommend supporting Win an Image and anybody that's involved in too. I know Solomon was announced and some of the other people from WCC, like Noman and of course Kao Chang. So those guys are big guys and awesome people as well. So thanks again, guys. Like down, comment down, share, and subscribe. See ya, amigos. Bye.